Let's take a deep dive into social media investigations and see how they can help your investigation. Social media has become an explosive force in our digital society, and it also plays a pivotal role in modern day investigations for private investigators. Anyone from individual researchers to large corporations, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies use these platforms as key resources for gathering information, and you, the professional private investigator, should also be using them. The first step to conducting a social media investigation is understanding why it's necessary. I conduct social media investigations, or what some people refer to as OSINT, or open source intelligence investigations, for many types of investigation. To clarify, OSINT is not just doing a social media investigation, but a social media investigation is part of an open source intelligence investigation, to be sure. I will almost always conduct social media investigations for cases like fraud investigations. In fact, this is often the starting point for many fraud investigations. I need to know who I am investigating. I need to understand what their likes and dislikes are, and oftentimes I can gain a ton of information about family members, friends, and professional associates. When it comes to doing background investigations, well, doing a social media investigation is an absolute must-do part of those investigations. Whether it is a pre-employment background investigation or a background on witnesses for a legal matter or just about any background investigation, you will gain a litany of useful information. When it comes to civil and domestic cases, I always find myself doing a deep dive into a social media investigation too. There is just so much information out there to help me understand the subjects of my case, as well to help me plan and conduct surveillance. But which social media platforms are the best for gaining intel for your investigation, and what information can you gather from each of those social media platforms? This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Amongst the vast array of social media platforms out there, the ones most worthy of focus are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, and Reddit. You will get the biggest bang for your buck if you focus on these 5 platforms, as they have the largest user bases and the most shared content, so they provide a good starting point. Obviously, if you're doing a deep dive on an OSINT investigation, you could go out there to dozens, even hundreds of other social media sites, but for now, we will focus on these 5. Let's look at Facebook real quick. The first thing I do when I get to someone's Facebook page is look at their profile information. Here you can often find information regarding their location. Now keep in mind, this is not always current or accurate. Sometimes people change their location on Facebook as soon as they move somewhere, but definitely not always. It often depends on the reason why they moved. If they are hiding from something, well, their first inclination is going to be to not change their location on any social media sites. In fact, I have seen where many subjects of investigations in the past have used this field for misinformation about their location. I also oftentimes see people not putting in the actual town or the city that they live in, rather they put in a larger or more popular city. For instance, if someone lives in Denver, but they are near Greenwood Village and they frequent Greenwood Village businesses and they feel like a part of that community, they may put Greenwood Village for a location and not Denver. Another great piece of information you can get from a person's Facebook profile page is where they work or the business they own or are associated with. Again, a word of caution: if someone is hiding, they might use this for misinformation or simply not change it when they change jobs. We had a case a while back where the subject had put a false city in his profile and a false place of employment. He had also created a new Facebook account and had abandoned his old one to throw people off his track. It did work. Well, sort of, for a short period of time, but we did eventually catch up to him and we were able to identify his new Facebook account. Date of birth is something a lot of people enter on their Facebook too. It's so nice when all of your friends and family wish you a happy birthday. Knowing this can help you identify by cross-referencing your other intel, such as database reports and information your client provided, if you have the right person's Facebook profile. Besides the profile data on their Facebook page, you should also take a close look at their friends list. I always scroll through the entire friends list when I can and I look at each of the individuals. Now, I don't necessarily go into all of their friends' pages and look around, but I look for certain things that may trigger the need for me to look further at that friend. For instance, if I want to know who their family members are, I might see that they put that in the relationship field for that friend, such as spouse, brother, sister. I will also look for people with the same last name. This often will be family members too. And I look at the friend's employment. Yes, if the friend is put in a place of employment, it will usually show that in the friends list. Now, I can take my comp report on the subject and I can cross-reference the known associates out there and see if any of them are on the subject's Facebook friends list. You should also pay close attention to their friends' interactions with them on Facebook. This is going to show you who their best friends are and who their closest relatives are. You can then look at those friends and see what likes, what dislikes, what associations they have. People tend to hang out with people that they have common interests with. I also watch my subjects' status updates during the course of an investigation. This can be very handy, especially when conducting surveillance. If they show interest in events, for example, that could be a good indicator if they will be going active and where they may be going. Let's shift over now to Instagram. This platform is similar to Facebook in the sense that you can oftentimes see the user's profile information. You can get a lot of information from this and use it to cross-reference back to your comp reports, what you found on Facebook, and other intel that you have regarding your subject. You also want to look at their followers list. This is like friends on Facebook, but it can have a lot more than just friends and family. The same goes for their following list. This shows who the subject is following and can indicate what they like, dislike, or are interested in, as well lead to friends and family that you are not aware of. Instagram stories and highlighted stories can provide good information too, but these disappear after 24 hours unless saved by the user. So you may need to check Instagram on a regular daily basis throughout the investigation. Then there is Twitter, or X, as it has recently been rebranded to. On Twitter, or X, I focus less on a person's personal information and more on the content that they tweet or post. This provides great insight into a person's opinions, their beliefs, their interests. I try to pay particular attention to their interactions. Whom do they follow? What posts do they like? Or what posts do they repost? This can provide some good intel to be sure. When it comes to finding employment, I find LinkedIn to be one of the best social media sites out there, especially for professionals. That is what LinkedIn is all about, a place where people can lay out their professional life and history to be proudly displayed for all to see. Here you might find things like their job history, skill endorsements, who they follow, groups they belong to, and their connections. One thing to keep in mind with LinkedIn, though, is the fact that if the subject has a pro account, they can see who visits their LinkedIn page. LinkedIn is also a good place to look for a photo of your subject, too. Many times, just searching on Google or other search engines, you can see people's LinkedIn photo from the search page, and you never have to actually go to the profile page. Then there is Reddit. This is the most commonly overlooked social media site when it comes to doing a social media investigation. On Reddit, you can get a lot of intel on a subject's interests by looking at their comments, posts, the topics they follow, their upvotes, as well as their downvotes. Here's a quick word of advice regarding all social media investigations. All of that data out there is volatile and can be changed, altered, or deleted at any time. You need to preserve that data as evidence and for future reference. Now, there are some paid platforms out there that will grab that info and store it for you with digital signatures, dates, times, and all that good stuff. And that is all good, and in some cases it may be necessary, but in my experience, just doing screen grabs is good enough for most investigations. I just named the screen grab file with something intuitive like the date, time, subject's name, the site. I also keep an Excel sheet that provides the full URL and other information for my reference too. Another bonus tip for you, keep in mind that with all these social media platforms, you should look at them much like you do all the paid database systems available to private investigators. There is no one magical social media site that will provide you with everything you need to know about your subject, and there is no one magical database that gives you every single detailed piece of information on your subject either. Each of these is just another tool that you can add to your arsenal of investigative resources to help you as you maneuver through your investigation. The bottom line is you are the investigator and you need to investigate as you use these tools. None of these alone will produce the smoking gun for you, but with diligence and careful inspection, they will aid you and your investigation.